What is up, and welcome back. Another episode of Blood and Beer, the show where we talk blood sport and we drink beer. It's 6 a.m. We're not drinking beer, but we are talking blood sport. We got Misfits boxing. We're going to preview that. UFC Fight Pass may have a new home, new broadcasting rights. We'll get into that as well. Former UFC champion son, attempted murder. Going to talk about that. And fight announcements from the UFC that we haven't got to go over on the show over the past couple weeks. So, I'm Matt, your host, as always, and it's 6 a.m. We got a off week from the UFC, but not from combat, and I guess we'll kick things off with UFC news, though, as there's rumors UFC Fight Pass will be moving to ESPN as ESPN's rolling out their DTC product direct to consumer for $29.99. And what that means for fans if Fight Pass goes to the ESPN DTC, if you already have cable, you're going to get it no matter what. But if you don't have cable, you're going to be paying $29.99 for Fight Pass, it sounds like. And I think at first there may be a surge of interest in the Fight Pass product, the UFC library, Strikeforce, Pride, all that, as well as some regional MMA boom. But I think that initial spike in interest will die off, and I think ESPN will, if they're fronting the bill, they're not going to want to support things like Cage Warriors or Fury FC or anything, Cage Fury, any of those things that air on Fight Pass. So if Fight Pass does go to ESPN, I could see it switching to almost exclusively a fight library, and we may see those regional programs die off or have to shrink a little bit and have much lower exposure. We may see a smaller, or not a smaller, but less development in MMA for a few years because of something like this. This would be something that affects us 10 to 15 years down the road. And it's all speculation. It's if ESPN gets Fight Pass. But if they do, it just doesn't seem like a good thing for regional MMA, because regional MMA is not a profitable thing, but it's something you need to build people into stars, build talent, sift out the shit, if you will. You can't just do it all on Tough and on Contender Series. You got to have somewhere for these guys to grind their teeth and, build their resume. But for $29.99 a month, I think that you're going to see, especially with UFC not being on DTC, I think it's going to switch to almost exclusively a fight library, as ESPN will not want to front the bill for these smaller regional promotions. I think it's a bad thing overall. I could be wrong, but I'm thinking that we're going to see Fight Pass switch to exclusively a fight library. And that might have been all over the place. I'm not sure. It's early in the morning, but that's just my thoughts on if it does go through, if Fight Pass does end up on that ESPN DTC. It's going to get buried. It's not going to be the main product that they have, and it's going to be a rough watch, because I don't think you're going to get UFC fans, people that have Fight Pass now, getting that DTC product just for Fight Pass at $29.99. But yeah, I'm all over the place on that, but I don't think it's a great thing if ESPN gets it. And then we also have some fight announcements before we get into this Misfits boxing card that's going down this weekend. UFC and PFL both have some big fight announcements. We haven't really gotten to go over too much. But PFL, first, we have Paul Hughes versus Usman Nurmagomedov, the rematch for the vacant lightweight title. The first fight earlier this year was an absolute classic. Fight of the year contender, and definitely fight of the year for the PFL, as Paul Hughes loses to Usman Nurmagomedov in a controversial decision. I thought Usman won it, but it was a great fight, and now they're going to run it back for PFL's inaugural lightweight championship, or revamping of their lightweight championship. Still all a little confusing, but that's okay. And then also we have the light heavyweight championship, as Corey Overtime Anderson is going to be taking on Dovlet Yagshimeredov, PFL 2024 champion, for the vacant light heavyweight championship at 205. And good on Corey. He went up to heavyweight, won a fight with Dennis Goltsov, and now he's going to be taking on another PFL 2024 champion, Dovlet. And Dovlet hasn't fought since his knockout win over Impa Kasanganay in the PFL finals last year. So is there going to be ring rust? Maybe, but great news for Corey Anderson, as he has a chance to capture a second belt in a major promotion. And then for the UFC, they're going to be going back to Rio de Janeiro, as Charles Oliveira is going to be returning from his knockout loss to Ilia Topuria in round one. he's going to be taking on Rafael Fiziev. It's going to be a striking match if Charles wants it to be. If he wants it to go to the ground, it will be as well. But it's Charles' first time fighting in Brazil in a long time, so he'll be excited to main event that card on October 11th. And then on October 18th, the following week, we got Reiner the Ritter taking on Anthony Fluffy Hernandez as the headliner in Vancouver, and that's an absolutely stacked card as well. UFC's pretty stacked throughout the end of the year from what we can see so far. We've got fights announced all the way through November, and none of them are Apex fights, so that's a great thing to see, and yeah, good on them. Speaking of UFC fighters, but not speaking of the UFC though, we'll head over to Misfits Boxing, and it's going to be headlined by Darren Till versus Luke Rockhold. Boxing match, uh, not a fight that I'm really dying to see, but it'll be somewhat entertaining, I think. I think that we're going to see Darren Till absolutely mop the floor with Rockhold, though. I think Rockhold is collecting checks. He's out there. He puts up a good showing of himself and everything, but I think Darren Till, he's got a lot more boxing experience than Rockhold. I think Rockhold's going to get tuned up. He's not really a boxer. While he can bang, I think he's going to get tuned up here. He's an old man, and same size. Darren Till's just been there, done that, and I think he's going to be a lot more comfortable in the boxing ring, knows how to move better, and he's going to piece Rockhold up. So if the odds are anywhere under minus 200, bet the house on Darren Till. And then in the co-main event, unfortunately, we have Tony Ferguson versus Salt Papi. It's really terrible that Tony Ferguson doesn't have anyone in his life to save him from himself, to stop him from fighting. The chin's clearly cracked. The guy, he's just not there anymore. He's on a 7 or 8 fight losing streak. He's not a boxer in the first place. He's never been a boxer in the UFC. He has 0 boxing matches. And he's fighting this guy in Salt Papi who technically has 0 boxing matches, but really he's got about 6 or 7 exhibition matches and several knockouts to his name. Now, I know the exhibition matches aren't against athletes like Tony Ferguson, but Tony Ferguson is super washed at this point in his career, and it's pretty rough to see. So you know you don't love to see it. You don't want to see Tony Ferguson fight anymore. He is fighting. That's going to be going down this weekend. And then also on the card in an MMA fight, Dillon Dannis is set to make his MMA return in a fight with a guy named, let me get this right here. Did I not? Warren Spencer. He's got 1 boxing match, no MMA fights, no amateur or professional MMA fights, only 1 professional boxing match, and Dillon's gonna choke this guy out. He's a jiu-jitsu black belt. He's a beast in BJJ, and he's way more experienced than the 2 fights he has. This guy he's fighting, he's got a few exhibition boxing matches, and then he's got his pro fight, his 1 pro fight. It's going to be a quick night in the office for Dillon Dannis if he's got anything left in him at all. But it's been like 5 or 6 years since the guy's competed in MMA, and I don't think anybody really cares to see him compete. Maybe the UFC will sign him, but I truly think with the showing of Dillon Dannis, of Patricio Pitbull, of Patchy Mix as of late, UFC's not dying to sign these former Bellator guys. Even a guy like Dillon Dannis who has a ton of followers and hate online, I still think that I just think nobody's really dying to get in the Dillon Dannis business besides Misfits. And then finally, I mentioned earlier in the show, former UFC champion's son in attempted murder. So Rampage Jackson's son, Raja Jackson, he picked up a professional wrestler at a wrestling show, slammed him down, knocked the guy out. That's not the problem. You know, it might have been a heavy slam. If he stopped there, that's fine. But then he went on to throw 22 unanswered strikes to this man's unconscious body. The guy went to the hospital. He was choking on his own blood, on his own teeth, and he's awake now. He's stable, but he's not doing great. And Raja Jackson, to this point, hasn't been arrested. Now, there's some backstory with this where Raja Jackson had gotten a concussion earlier in the year, or earlier in the week. He had been messed with by this Sycko Stu guy that he had assaulted. But in the videos we saw, because this was all live streamed, this was all an online stunt potentially. This might not have even been real, but it sounds like it was. In the videos we saw, they made up, they apologized, they explained their piece, Sycko Stu and the other wrestlers, and Raja Jackson I mean, if you watch the video, I'm not going to post it here, but if you watch that video, it's pretty gruesome. He just unloads on him for no reason, and 22 times. Took the people a lot of time to step in and help their friend. Really bizarre that he hasn't been arrested yet, unless it is all just a stunt for the camera and everybody's playing in really well. Professional wrestling, maybe, but I don't know. It looked pretty real. The guy's head was just bobbing from these punches. It was pretty rough. That's all I really got for you, though. Short show this week. Next week, we got UFC Paris. We're back on a UFC card. There we go. Back on a UFC card. We got a UFC Paris. We're going to give you the pick'em show, best bets, what have you. Break down the main card, break down the whole thing. And then following week, UFC Noche and Canelo Crawford versus Canelo versus Crawford. Sorry, Terrence Crawford versus Canelo Alvarez. And the last final thing, Dana White Contender Series went down last night. Saw 5 contracts awarded in 5 finishes. 4 of those finishes coming in the first round. So that's the second week in a row where we've had 5 contracts handed out on 4 first-round finishes. That's all I've got for you. Thank you for tuning in. Follow me on X at BloodBeerMMA. As always, Spotify, Amazon, Apple, YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe. Give us 5 stars if you're listening on any of those platforms. I appreciate it. Share the podcast with your MMA fans, with your boxing fans. Let me know what you want to hear about, what you want me to cover. I'll cover just about any combat sport I can find. But that's all I've got for you. Thank you for tuning in. Peace.